Hello, welcome to day 4 of my Road to International Master training, and in today's video I'm going to learn about Isolani, about IQP, and let's begin with this. From this book I'm holding in my hands right now, let's begin with the introduction. And here they mentioned that this IQP structure can appear from various openings, like for example Queen's Gambit accepted after d4, d5, c4, dc, knight f3, knight f6, e3, e6, bishop c4, c5 and just castle, knight c6, queen e2, cd4, rook d1 and bishop e7, and then you take on d4 with the pawn. And by what I know already about IQP is that white has more space, has some attacking chances, but black's tendencies are of course to exchange pieces. Also there is one more. There is like 9 openings mentioned here that can appear, so let's see the Tarrasch defense. After this, knight c3, c5, that's also well known. Takes, knight f3, knight c6, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7, castles, and now after this position, now it's black who has IQP. What's there else? Semi-Tarrasch. So in that case, black is the one, white is the one who has the IQP. So after this, now knight f6, and after this, knight takes, e3, and then we have this one. It also appears in Nimzo-Indian. After d4, knight f6, c4, e6, here, e3, castles, bishop d3, d5, knight f3, c5, castles, knight c6, a3, now cd, ed, dc4, and now you have this position which is also IQP. What else? Caro-Kann. Okay, so it's the Panov defense. It's the Panov variation. So it goes like this. e6, knight f3, bishop e7, and then just do this. Also French defense, but this is Tarrasch, so black has the IQP. I thought it was something like this. It can appear like this and white has IQP, but here it's like this, knight e2, and on c5 takes. Now black chooses to take with the pawn. He can also take with the queen, of course. Bishop b5, knight c6, and just in the end, bishop d6, takes, and that's IQP. Also in the Alapin variation there is IQP, but for white. After this, bishop d3, bishop e7, castles, queen e2, cd4. In the Italian game, also after this, I guess if I don't look at the book, I think it's knight f6 and just going for something like this. Yep, that's it. And the white has IQP. Also in the Petrov, which is the final position they mentioned, This, knight e4, d4, d5, bishop d3, bishop e7, castles, knight c6, rook e1, bishop g4, and now c4, after which d4 becomes weak no matter what. Knight f6, knight c3, castles, cd, knight d5, and it's all IQP. And it says here the above are the most frequently encountered IQP structures. It should be noted that in the fourth type, two variants are possible. One with the white's king's bishop fianchettoed on g2, and the other with the pawn on e3. Okay. Okay, so now let's see a game between Louis Charles de la Bourdonnais versus Alexander McDonald. And this was some kind of Queen's Gambit accepted, but it looked more like a French defense. So we had d4, d5, c4 takes, and now e3 immediately. e5, bishop takes c4, takes, and knight f6. Which can also appear from this order. e4, no, not like this. This one takes. But I think this move order is better for black, because black's not gonna capture on c4 right away. But okay, let's not lose time on this. Knight c3, bishop e7, knight f3, castles, and now c6. So he wants to just block the d5 square as soon as possible. Also here bishop g4 looks quite interesting. And now h3 to stop this. That looks quite sensible. And here it mentions that rook e1 is also interesting. After knight bd7, bishop goes to b3. Probably just because you want to get bishop c2, queen d3 battery, and to have some nice play. So now knight b6, bishop g5, knight d5, and here white took, and black took back with the knight, which was a mistake. He should have captured with the c-pawn, because after knight d5, there is rook e7. This is quite interesting. Now, if captures queen e2, now you pin the knight. I guess if you go rook e8, there is rook e1, and what happens on this? Maybe just knight e5, and you win on the spot. Let's check it with the engine. Okay, it says plus 6.4, which is incredibly too much. So wait, if you go bishop e6, takes, queen f3, here queen f7, king h8, and now rook e4 just. Oh yeah, black is just tied up completely. Now you're gonna play rook h4 and it's just over. Wait, it says here in some variation bishop f6. Oh, this is something new. Bishop f6 and then if he takes, then rook h4. Oof, that's brutal. Okay, so that was that, queen e2, so it's best to go for bishop e6 here. But now you take, rook f7, knight e5, and now white gets the exchange back, but also the d5 square becomes an outpost for the knight. Wait, but why couldn't you just capture here? Is that bad? Like, I just play king f1 or... Let's say king f1, rook d8. And now just this one. Maybe black holds this, actually. Just puts the rook on d5 and I have to always keep an eye on this weak pawn. So yeah, I have extra pawn, but you might hold this. Of course, black has to be always alert, but I feel like he has good chances for active defense here. But they mention here this line, queen d5, which I feel like this is... it's tougher to convert. How do you proceed here? How do you convert this after I go rook e8 next? But okay, that's not the theme of this book. Let's go back. So this was the better choice, but in the game, in one of the games, mentioned bishop e7 was played, and this just led to equality after knight d5. And yeah, when you exchange too much here, it's not promising any advantage, except in some special cases. So this game was played almost 200 years ago, and white played in this position h3 to stop bishop g4 and to make the bishop somewhat passive. Knight d7, and now bishop e3. And in one of the games, rook e1 was played. But from Petrov, which means that it was 2 moves later, because of some tempi loss. And now knight b6, bishop b3. Knight fd5, bishop c2. A very usual maneuver. Bishop f6, and now a3. But now black gets g6 and bishop g7. Very typical setup in these types of positions. Because you can't really afford here to play h6. because there's always queen d3 and some potential sacrifice on g6 if you play g6. So moving both pawns doesn't work usually, and you have to pick one pawn to just move. And in this case it's better to go for this one, because after h6 also there is a danger of maybe some sacrifice on h6, so g6 feels more solid. And now knight e4 was played in that game, bishop g7 back, bishop g5, queen c7. It seems like black is more passive but also quite solid. White has to do something really aggressive to use this passivity, like to play h4, h5, but that also brings some kind of risk. Bishop h4, rook a e8, knight c5, and here it was a draw. But still, I would not be so reluctant to play as black here. I don't see what's wrong with black, because there's nothing wrong, so yep. So white played bishop e3, knight b6, and now he occupies d5. Now the d5 is blocked, but now white can occupy e5. But apparently not immediately. Because probably there's no hurry, because there's no bishop g4 anymore, so you can wait for it. And now king h8. And it says here, the start of an aggressive but mistaken plan. Stockfish prefers the black position following bishop e6. Bishop e6. And now after this, rook e8, bishop d2 back. And now a5, queen d1. But this just seems so random, not in the spirit of IQP. a3, bishop f8, queen c2, knight c7, equal. But now when the bishop gets traded, I don't know for what to play. Maybe to play against this knight in b6, because a5 is played, and but then a4 might come. So I'm not sure how to assess this. Okay, so black played this one, king h8, rook a e1, bishop d6, bishop c2, and now f5. Which is a mistake. Here it's better to capture on e3. And if fe, then bishop e6, knight e4, bishop e7, g6. And after this, to just capture, and go queen g5. Takes, cb, ab, and black is slightly better. Yeah, probably because you can just block the e-pawn on e5. But wait, knight e3? What happens if queen e3? Well, they say here bishop e6, knight e5, knight d5, queen d3, g6. Queen d2, and now bishop c7. Now what? Knight e4, bishop f5, and now a3. And this is equal. Yeah, okay. Whatever you say. Bishop c2, f5 now. And now white plays knight e5. But it says here that better is bishop g5. Bishop g5 is better, and after queen c7, knight e5, bishop e6. Queen h5. And after this to go g4. And now to have some initiative. Maybe the idea is to go king h1, rook g1, and to put some pressure along the g file, like in maybe some Dutch defense. Especially with the London setup, something like that. King h1, rook g1, and at some point to open up the g file. Maybe once you double on the g file, you can pull the trigger and capture an f5. Yeah, that seems quite reasonable, but here why is this not a good option after this, to take on e6 and to target this one? Well, maybe you can just go king h7 or queen f7. Oh no, queen f7 hangs the bishop, so maybe king h7 to just save the bishop, and maybe you don't have anything concrete. Maybe you can just continue with bishop b3 and putting pressure on the knight. I think you would prefer that to have this type of structure. To have hanging pawns, but with the bishop pair. Okay, so Labourdonnais didn't play bishop g5, he played knight e5. And now f4 by black, which kind of weakens the long diagonal. Well, semi-long diagonal, let's say. And it was better to just go bishop e6, knight d5, bishop d2, bishop g8, and after this to capture an e5. d5, bishop f7. But wait, why is it so important to not play bishop to just go here, and go bishop e6? Maybe you want to stop g4, because if you do it right away, if you do like this, maybe g4 can be a bit issue-y. But no, then g6, right? g6, and then you capture on g4. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's not calculation session, so I don't care about it. f4, queen h5, knight f6. Queen h5, yeah, this bishop b3, knight bd5, and now just take it. cd takes, rook f7, and now do you have Oh, the bishop hangs. So I wanted this, but it's not supposed to work, because after this, queen f7, you can take on e3. So do that. Bishop e6 takes, bishop e5, d5, and after this, white was winning, and that's it. Okay, let's see the position of the endgame in which we have IQP. Let's check this endgame out. We have this one, and let's first check what happened in the game. I feel like this should be a draw, because there are only just kings on the board, and you cannot really use this weak pawn on d5 that much. If there's a knight against bishop, then I could imagine that this winning with white, of course, but with only kings, it's a bit tougher. Maybe I can somehow out-tempi black by king d4, but even if you get b6, let's imagine some structure like b6, king d6, and just moving the king back and forth. But then I can at some point start pushing b4, a4, a5, and then this way I can imagine that something horribly comes wrong for black. And white plays king d4 here. And we're gonna be back in this position later on. But let's check what happened first in the game. King d6. Because you have to stop king e5, of course. b4, b6. h4, h5. a4, a5. Okay, that's takes, and now f4. Or they mention here f3. If king c6, king e5, that was the whole point, but now the a pawn hangs as well. And it says here equality. But wait, if I push... No, I don't push. Wait, what do I do? Or what do I actually do? Do I go to g6? Do I do this? No, I don't. Because then I just lose after a couple of more checks. Yeah, I can just lose this one. Or maybe not. Wait. I don't have a good check, actually. No, but I have on g3. I have on g3, and then I take on h4, whatever you do. So how is this? Maybe I do push e4, and if you do this, then okay. I promote, you promote king g6, take, go here, I save the pawn, you cannot do much. Let's check it just quickly. So here it was e4, d4, e5, d3. Yeah, it's a draw by Stockfish 14. king g6. Look at me playing only moves. Okay, that's a draw. So after f4, what happens then? g6, e3, and now king c6. Ready to meet this by just going here. King e5, king c5. And now if you try king e6, this is just losing because of king b4. So king f6. And now you don't go to a4 because it's too slow. You just capture on e3 and we have this race. Queen f5, queen b4. Oh, this can be a bit tricky. I guess a4, g4, a3, g5 here. Wait, why don't you... Aha, if a2 then queen e6. Yep. Okay, queen b2, g6, a2, queen g5, and now you give couple of checks, and now g7 once you get to g5. That's interesting. And now give a check. Check. Wow, any check leads to a counter check because the king is too close to my king. If you do this, I have this check. And it's a trouble. If you do this one, I have queen g4. I exchange queens and it's over. Maybe. Queen h8, and now it's forcing. Wait, but... yeah, if you take and do this, this is also a draw because you cannot go here since you lose the pawn. Okay. King e5, and now queen g5 with a draw, because now you don't capture, of course, you just go here. And when the king gets to f7 or g7, you don't care about queen trades, because the pawn endgame is just dead draw. Okay, that was the... That was the endgame in the game, but let's check what could have happened. What could have happened if white went with king e3 instead? To go against these pawns. And basically the idea is to force g6 and to somehow undermine this potential pawn chain. Let's see. King d6, king f4, king e6, king g5, king e5, because I guess if you do g6 right away, then after h4, or just, no, or just, this is also quite scary. So you don't want to allow this. And now a3. Okay. And now king e4. Holds by Stockfish. And the mistake is b5. After b4. And now king e4. There is h4 and d4. And here it shows king e5 is also losing because of h5, king e4. Wait, if king e6, then e3, king e5, f3, king e6. Aha, you just put him in zugzwang. Okay. h6, g6, king f6, and you just enter to demolish his pawn. Okay, that's good enough. But after this, d4, h5, h6. Because if you don't do it, then he plays h6, and after g6, king f6, king g7, and penetration style. King g6 takes, and now e3. Oh, you want to avoid this. Oh yeah, this would be a disaster. So e3 takes, king g4, and now e4. And once you go after this one, I take on g7 and take on h6. Okay. That's cool. So where was I? h4, d4. h5, h6, king g6. Wait, I'm lost. Aha, they have shown the slightly. Oh, this is not lost actually, but it's very complex. King f4, what? King f4. No, but it's just nonsense. It's much simpler this way, so I'm not gonna even look at it. So e3 is just much simpler. But after a3, king e4 is the best, and it actually holds. After h4, king e5, h5, b6 now. Wait, if h6, g6, f4, king e6, now you hold because you have always these two. If b4, b5, h6, g6, okay, still holds. After b3, a5, a4, king e4, and now if you go h6, what happens? Ah, you go after these ones. Okay, this is queening at the same time. Okay, let's check one more game from the intro section. And I'm gonna choose let's pick this game. One more endgame, which is very instructive. And let's just quickly go through the opening. It's not the point of this whole, let's say, course. dc5, castles, knight d2, knight b6, bishop b3, bishop e7, queen e2, rook e1, knight d5 back, and now black took on d5 and he creates a weak pawn on d5, isolani on d5. E d5, queen d3, queen d6, knight b3, bishop g4, knight bd4. Now you block the pawn, that's all standard. And now knight g5. And here g6 was also very good. And it shows here some line like this. Bishop h6, rook fe8, takes, bishop e3, takes, queen c4 with equal position. But black plays bishop g5. Bishop g5 and now exchanges queens. He believes that he's going to hold this. White takes. And we have this endgame, which is quite interesting. At first it seems like you have nothing to play for as white, but the reality is different. Now black plays f6, rook e7, rook f7 here, and now bishop d7. And now white begins to make some pushes, some advance. h4. The only issue with black position is that he doesn't have any counterplay, it seems. It seems like he's just dead. That he just has to wait for things to happen. And that's exactly what he does. b6. Okay, maybe b6 is a move you don't want to make. Like, why would you put the pawn on b6? Rook e3 back, rook f8, f3, rook f8, and now black is going to exchange at least one pair of rooks. King f7, rook d1, bishop, king e6, and now g4. Keeping the pressure and also trying to limit this bishop, which is quite nice. Rook c8, bishop d4, rook h8, king g3. And now you slowly but surely increase pressure. First by limiting the bishop completely. And now you advance even on the queen side. a4, a6, rook a1, b5. And it says here that it's better just to play passively with rook b8 and just move rook b7, rook b8. And they show some line here, but it doesn't change much. For example, if you go for a5 here, you can just take, and go bishop b5, completely making the fortress on the queen side. So if king f4, then king d6, king e3, rook b8, and just shuffle around. I think if you over push this, you might be in some trouble, because let's imagine that white plays this move. You can go bishop b8 and then take on g5, or do something else. Bishop e8 and then even bishop g6, bishop c2. That's quite annoying as well. Or maybe some crazy idea like bishop f5, bishop d3. If you take on f6, bishop goes here and bishop c4 next, with some checkmating threats. So black played b5 and now a5. King f7, and here it was nice to mention this b4 move. Yeah, this is a typical sacrifice. To open the bishop up, and now after this bishop b5, black is very much fine. King f7 instead, now b4. Now there's no option for that. Now they shuffle a bit. King g3, bishop c5, and now the king gets more active. After bishop e6, king d4, king g5, h5, bishop c8, and wait, you prevent like this. Aha, you want to go in, if king c5, you want to go bishop b7. Let's say if you take on d5, then bishop b7, bishop f3. If you go to c5, then rook e3, and you attack both pawns. Seems reasonable, but yeah, you don't have this because of rook c3 first. Rook c3 and then just bishop b7 and troubles. Okay, so he played this check, king d4, and now bishop e6. Again, it's better to go rook e6 to meet king d5 by bishop c6. And after this, bishop c6, rook d3, king e8, and just offer a draw. Okay, so after king d4, bishop e6 was played, and now h5. It says here that stronger was rook e1. No? Rook e1. Rook h8, then rook e3. So what, if you take, then bishop d6. And then king enters, and it's very tough. Okay, so after this g5, you take and go bishop b6, and again you want to enter either via e5 or via c5, and then to d6 later on. And also g5 will become a huge target. I don't know if this was necessary to play g5. G5 seemed like a very, very weakening move. What happens on this? In the book says f4. Aha, now if you take on g4, there's rook e7, rook a7, which is quite disturbing. Or just king d5 simply, immediately. And then king d6, slowly entering the position. It's interesting how this naive position from move 20 or even here turned out to be not so easy to hold. After bishop e6, h5 was played, and now black took on h5, and here it's better to go g5, it says. So after h6 to take, and then king g7, just stop any invasion on the h file. And then to stop with rook c8 any king entry, which seems reasonable. But black played gh, and now rook h, rook d8, rook h4, bishop c8, f4, bishop b7, f5. Now the ring is tighter and tighter. Rook e8, bishop d6, rook c8, and it mentions here that rook e4 is lost because after king c5, king g8, king b6, you just win the a6 pawn, because if you go here, king c7, I suppose, and after this black is in some Zugzwang, I suppose. You just go rook h3, rook d3, take on d5, and slowly begin to push these pawns. Okay, so this is bad. Rook c8, rook h3, rook c4, king d3. And now king g8 by black. But so what happens if rook g4? Rook g4, rook h8. Ay. Checkmate on f8. If you play g6, there is rook h7, and then you lose the bishop. Very bad. If king e8, then rook e3. And then the endgame is lost after rook e4, because what happens if this? Bishop f8 just. Or something else. Maybe even rook e7. Capture and then either capture on g7 or capture on a6. Ah, yeah, maybe you go just bishop h2. No, I don't have a check. What am I talking about? No, I go bishop c5, rook g4, and then do this, or if king c8, still the same goes. Bishop b6, followed by rook c7. And if you go here, I believe I can checkmate you somehow. I believe. Maybe there's nothing there. Let's check it. So this, rook a7, bishop c6, and then you capture. Capture on a6. But wait, I missed something. Rook e3, king d7 is bad. Aha, because of this, and after this, rook b6 and take the pawn. Okay. And then you might capture on b5 as well if you try to do the race. The a pawn is too quick. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. But what's wrong with this? Wait, let's check out the endgame. Rook e4. Takes. King d4, bishop c6. King c5, king d7, bishop f4 now. And on e3, now you go first for king b6. Because if you take on e3, then king c7 makes a blockade, because black is going to capture on... Wait, no. Black is going to play bishop f3, bishop g4, take it, exchange all these pawns on the king side, and just sit with the king to be on b7 and wait. So that's why this is much stronger, king b6. And now e2, bishop g3, bishop f3, king a6, bishop g4, king b5 here, and now king c4. Ah, no, c4. And white wins. But there is one nice line here. After king d3, and that's d4, to make the bishop more active. And now this endgame, potential bishop endgame after cd4, is not winnable because the king cannot enter. After cd4, rook c6, bishop f4, rook c8, g5. We have this. Wait, why that? Aha, I want to capture f5, not d5, but maybe what white wants is to exchange bishops, to exchange rooks. Let's say bishop d5, to go rook e3 and to claim that he can capture these pawns. I do not know. So bishop c8 here, and then you capture an f5 here, takes, bishop g6, and it's supposed to be a draw, but I'm not so sure. But let's go back, never mind. Rook e4, rook e3, rook e4. If you take on g4, then rook e7, bishop c6, here, and you lose the a6 pawn in the end. Okay. Here takes, king d4, and now the king is a bit unpleasant. Now the king enters and it's over. Now he lost the pawn and it's a matter of technique. And now he's gonna lose even the b5 pawn because of Zugzwang. And that's that. And here it says the side with IQP has the following 4 plans available. Plan A, Kingside Attack. Plan B, opening the game by advancing the Isolani. The C, advancing the Isolani in order to fix an enemy pawn or on an adjacent file. Or D, developing activity on the queen side. And also the side who plays against IQP has 2 methods: simplification or transformation from IQP to hanging pawns. And let's analyze, let's see some games with Kingside Attack. Let's check this one. So we have d4, knight f6, and we have Nimzo. Like we saw before, c5 here, d5 castles, dc4, Bishop c4, knight d7, and now queen b3. It says here queen e2 is the main line. And after b6, to go rook d1, cd, ed, bishop b7, and now d5. Oh, that's some crazy stuff. Give me black, please, in this position. Give me black. So let's go back to the game. Queen b3 was played. Queen b3 was played, and now a6, a4 to stop b5, queen e7, rook d1, bishop a5, and now queen c2. And now black plays cd4, but it just opens up the bishop that way. After ed5, ed4. So they recommend here maybe just rook d8 or h6. So okay, black took ed4 and now knight b6. And now where to go with the bishop? Do you want to go to d3? Do you want to make some battery like bishop c2, queen d3? And here white plays bishop a2 because he wants to put his bishop on b1, but the rook goes to d3, and then it can rook lift on the third rank. Bishop a2, h6, knight e5, and now bishop d7. A serious mistake. It says here that knight bd5 is the only way to maintain equality. After this bishop b1, bishop e6, rook a3. Even this rook lift is possible. Rook fc8 was the only way to... yeah. So bishop d7 was played, and now bishop b1 immediately. And here there's a nice move for white instead of bishop b1. And here Stockfish mentions rook d3. Rook d3, and now it's possible to go for this, but after queen e2, rook ac8, bishop d2, takes, you still have some ideas like rook g3, I guess, and sacrifice. So if you take on c3 right away, then bc, bishop a4, now queen e2. But wait, if you go bishop b5, then c4, okay. Knight bd7, rook g3, king h8, bishop b1, and this is scary. Very scary. Also, they show that after bishop d7, bishop h6 is very good. And now if you take on h6, rook d3, bishop e8, now white just crashes through. with d5 and rook h3. Here bishop b1, f5, and you take on e6 with a strong attack. Especially because the knight on b6, bishop on a5 are just stranded. And the extra piece doesn't feel like extra piece. Okay, but what after bishop h6, what happens if bishop c3? Well, we'll see. bc, bishop a4, queen c1. And now you want to anticipate gh by queen takes? Or just this with rook d3 and rook g3? Yeah, this is much better, I think. But if he takes, then queen g5 and g6 here. What is that? Knight d5 takes, queen g3. And now this move, bishop g5. Here, knight g6 with extra pawn. Yeah, it's extra pawn, but black has the a pawn. Okay, let's go to the game. Even bishop b1 was very dangerous. Rook f d8. And here rook f c8 was interesting as well. Rook d3, knight d5, rook g3. And now king f8 to somehow avoid this Armageddon. Bishop d2. Oh, but wait, if you go queen d2, which is also mentioned in the book, how do you stop rook g7? How do you stop this? Let's see. Queen b4. Bishop c2. Exclamation marks. But wait, what's the point of this move? Why can't you play this immediately? And then just do this. Aha, you want to have the back rank secured when you go bishop g5 at some point. That makes sense. But it's insanely slow and it's so sus. Bishop c2, bishop e8. Takes, check. Queen h4, bishop d8. Wait. So we want to go bishop h6 and queen g5, right? So he goes for this, bishop h6 here and queen g4. And it's over. Okay, so after rook f d8, which was played, rook d3. And here they mention g4 as a very interesting line to somehow try to kick this knight from f6 to secure h7. And now what could happen? Bishop c6, h4. So you want to avoid g5, but you cannot do it. Ah, you cannot do it because I always have bishop a3 in the end. Okay, okay. True that. I always have bishop a3 and you cannot stop it. If g5 takes, knight goes somewhere, check on h7, king f8, bishop a3 is quite annoying. And when you play g6, you lose the h6 pawn. After this, bishop g5, and black is much worse. Okay, but he played this, rook d3. And now rook ac8. It says here the best defense is bishop e8. Yeah, this is something that is very often seen in the IQP. When the rook gets to d8, from f8, the bishop comes to e8 to save f7. Bishop e8, rook g3, rook d4, bishop h6, g6. And also by bishop e8 you want to secure g6 as a move. Queen e2, knight bd7, bishop g6. Ay, ay, ay. Is this possible? Is this legal? Wait, if you go knight f7 here, bishop f7, bishop g6, king h8, rook h3, bishop g6, bishop f8. And what is this? Is this winning or what? It doesn't say. You can go here to pretend you're fine. And you have some material for the queen, but I think black's king's position is much more relevant than material at the moment. But let's see bishop g6 instead. Bishop g6, fg, knight g6, takes, king h8, bishop g7, takes, rook d1. And black has some resources because he has plenty of pieces here. And I don't like it for white. But let's go back to the game. Rook ac8 and now rook g3. Again, the same story. Rook g3, queen d2 next. But here they mentioned that after rook ac8, bishop h6 is possible. Bishop h6, and after capturing bc, if you capture on h6, queen d2. And then if this, rook h3, and then just queen h4. You take the knight on the next move and go rook g3, which crushes. And yeah, if you capture on c3 by rook, then rook on d8 hangs. Okay, so where was I? This bishop a4, Rook a4, gh, rook a5. Oh, this is just a ruined position. Now if you take... no. Oh. If you take on a5, then just take on h6. Or just give a check first. And do this. But wait a sec. If you do this queen f6, is it that easy? Because I might have rook d4. It could be easy, but let's see if it's... I think it's just rook queen h6 and then rook g3, not to allow king f8 to happen. Yeah, that's supposed to be it. So after this, gh, rook a5, knight c4, queen c1, and after knight e5, you take with the rook and the king side collapses. Black's king side collapses. Okay, so where was I? Move 18, rook g3. We looked at bishop h6, so now rook g3. Now king f8, poor king, and now queen d2. Again, this is winning. Bishop h6, gh, queen c1, and when the queen moves, then just crash. After this, rook f7, king d6, bishop f5. Ouch. Rook d7 next and bye-bye. Or this. Oh, this is just... poor black. Okay, so here queen d2 was played, and now knight bd5. It mentions here if knight c4, then you exchange and take on g7. And now we have this ruined position. And we take on f6 next, and it's all over. Okay, so queen d2, knight bd5, and now bishop g6. Very, very clever. Bishop g6 hitting on f7, and you cannot take because of the fork, of course. But again, white could have won much easier by rook g7, and if takes, then we have this sequence, bishop g5, and now what's the plan? You want to go bishop h7 maybe at some point, but not immediately, I guess. Bishop c3, bc, rook c3, and now h3. That's how bad black's position is. He can play h3 as a move and not even budge. Rook dc8 here, and we take the queen, but is it enough though? It is, because you have queen against rook and knight, and also some pawns. So yeah, it's enough. But he plays this, and now bishop e8 is possible. Which is a mistake, actually. Bishop c7 is the only defensive possibility. in this position. And what's the point? Aha, if you take on f7, then he takes on e5 and he is somewhat okay. Bishop d3 back, takes knight h5. And again you do this, wow. Ah, because if you take with the knight, then you have queen h8 as well. Bishop g5 comes next, and it's awful. If you go queen b4, then just wait, what? Or no, wait, what am I doing? Queen h8 and then this bishop g5, and it's all over. Yep. After this, they mentioned rook, knight df4. Rook g4, bishop c6. Takes, go bishop g5, and after this queen f6. So what's this position? And you just push the h pawn or what? White is better, but still there are some technical issues. Okay, so he missed a chance to play bishop c7 and to somewhat prolong the game, and he played this. And now there's this move. Queen h6. Damn, this is nice. If you take, give a check, go here, take, knight d5. Oof. What's happening? Knight d5, and what happens if you take? Well, you have 2 extra pawns. You greedy man. You have 2 extra pawns. Do I want something more out of it? Okay, so this, if fg, then what happens? What happens? Fg, then check here, and knight d5 takes rook d5, rook f3, and you lose the queen. Nice for white. If knight c3, then give a check here, bc, rook c3, takes bishop h7, queen c7, go here, bishop a3, king f6, and then just chase the king. Ouch. Checkmate. So in the game, queen b4 was played to somehow get the king out. Now check this and take on g7. Also winning was bishop f7. And now on bishop takes, take rook f8, takes bishop h6, queen b2, rook f1, and now just rook f3. Take this bishop. And also they mentioned that even bishop g5 is winning. After this, rook b1, bishop c3, takes, queen g7. The bishop defends back rank, the h-pawn can begin running. So everything is pretty much under control. But he chose this, which also wins. And now queen d4. Knight goes back to d3. But what happens if knight f3? It says it's more accurate. If this queen b4, bishop f7 takes knight e5 now, and take bishop h6. So again, you have I think we had something similar. Let's say if you go queen b2, I go rook f1, or just no, I go knight g6. I go here. So yeah, knight d3 was played, bishop c3 takes, and let's see now how to convert this. Bishop a3, here rook e1, because you want to stop knight e2. If you're reckless and play bishop f7, there is knight e2, and it can become a problem. After this, or king h1, let's say, then you take bishop c1, you take, and checkmate. If king f1, then you take and take the rook on a1, take everything. It's just awful. Okay, so you have to be patient, be a bit careful. King c7, king runs, and now bishop e7. Knight cd5, but if this happens, you take, bishop d8 takes, queen d4 takes, rook g4. And it says it's hopeless. Because if you do f5, I give a check and then move my knight. In this moment, I couldn't move the knight because the rook hangs on g3. But now I can do it this way and move to e5 and whatnot. To f4 even, to capture e6. Okay, so after this, he went for d5 back. And now we take. It's an exchange up, but still, he has to show some precision, right? Let's see what happens there. Takes, oh. And now he played this one, but whoopsie. Rook d1. Okay, here it says in the structure with e6 versus d4, the hotspots where white often sacrifices his pieces are e6 and f7, while the structure with c7, c6 versus d4, there's a typical sacrifice as seen in the following game. Oh, we have to see that. We have to see that. So it's actually like a French exchange or Petrov. And let's check this out. This is Petrov now. Let me check if I'm on the screen. Yeah, this is on the screen. Okay. Takes, d4, d5, bishop d3, knight c6, castle, bishop g4. And now c4, knight f6. And finally we get to this IQP position. Bishop e6, and now rook e1, castle, and a3. And now white prepares bishop c2, queen d3 battery, because you don't want to allow queen b4 at any moment. Knight b4 at any moment. Now black plays rook e8, and now bishop c2. Trying to go for this battery, but here they mentioned that queen c2 is also very interesting, and After h6, there is this interesting line of rook e6. Interesting idea. After this, bishop c4, bishop f6, bishop e3, go here and go to c5 eventually. And if b6 happens, then to go here, take bishop c6, and white is tiny bit better for some reason. There is some compensation because of this e6 weakness and weakened light squares around the king, but I think black can manage it without too much issues. So after rook e8, bishop c2 was played, and now h6. And if you remember from the previous game, I think it was the first game, you don't want to push h6 that early without being provoked. And usually what's better here is to have this bishop f6 g6 maneuver. So here bishop f6 just maintains equality, after which if I go here g6, and now if you go bishop a4, just take and go bishop d5. Or if you go bishop h6 here, takes, bishop f5, rook e8 takes, just exchange and go queen d7, rook e8 next, and black is fine. Black is fine. So after this, h6 was a serious mistake, and we'll see why. We'll see why. Now white plays queen d3. Now knight f6 has to be played, because I guess if you play g6 there is rook e6 immediately and you collapse. So after this, now bishop h6 happens. And now actually if you... Well, black took, which was the most principled, but now there is rook e6. This combo of two sacrifices and in two moves is just fatal. And if queen d7, I mean, if you take, you just cannot hope for anything. I can go back and go knight g5 next. And then go either knight f7 or just queen h6, bishop h7. Let's imagine that you defend somehow by rook f8, but I have this in the end. So black went for queen d7, and now black is a pawn down. And now white doesn't back off, he plays rook a e1. And now fe, queen g6, king f8, takes here, and now a bit strange, this reaction of black of white to me. 95. Can you just go here and do this with knight g5 next? And after rook f8 to go here. And he has this. Let's check the book. Aha, they mentioned the same, but yeah, there's bishop f5 in the end, yeah. And then you have bishop e6. Or you might even have something like this, and rook e4. Followed by this one. Yeah, this is just game over because you want to give a checkmate, actually. You don't want to test your technique. Why would you do that? Just go for rook e4 and use the fact you can give a checkmate right away. If he tries queen d4, then you take it, or now give a check. Bishop e6, and bye-bye black. But white played knight e5 here, black took, and now when the 7th rank is covered, it's a bit tougher to convert this. Queen f6, bishop g7. So what happens on queen g7? Ah, bishop g6. Ah, and what happens if rook e7? It only says here bishop g6 and exclamation mark. I don't know. Let's see what our friend says. Rook e7, knight e4, just. And if I take? Aha, we have something like this, and then the h-pawn begins to run. You can take on e6, you can push f7 next. Okay, but I think this is in this case it's just better to go queen g6 and well, maybe again against this move you have to do something else. Because now knight g5, bishop d8 or bishop d6, bishop d8. Bishop d8 to defend the knight, of course. So here knight e5 is the best, actually. And after this d5. But now there's no bishop f8, there's bishop d8, but you take on f6 and let's say bishop d8, take, queen f7, check here, and just rook e4. What not? Maybe knight e4, just save the pawn first and then go rook e3. Seems clean. Okay, so here we have this, and what happened next? Queen g6. Queen d2. And after a couple of more moves, black resigned. This and rook f3. It's over. So this was nice. This idea of when the bishop is on e6 to sack on h6, but only once you have this battery going for you. Knight f6 back, bishop h6. Wait, does it work the other way around? This, bishop h6. Maybe it's even better because after bishop h6 you're not obliged to capture, but on e6, when you take the bishop, you pretty much are obliged. And after this, bishop h6. Now, what happens if you just go bishop d6 or just chill? Bishop g5 back. Queen d7. Rook e1. So you play it slowly, actually. You don't have anything concrete, but black is pretty bad, in bad shape. Oh, also there's g4, some move. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so let's pick... Let's pick next game. Let's go with the plan B. Plan B is opening the game by advancing the IQP. And this one is a very famous game. Let's begin with this one. So we have again this Queen's Gambit accepted. And now c5, castle a6, queen 2, b5, and now bishop b3. Okay, so now knight c6 by black, knight c3, and now again black makes a very common mistake. He takes on d4 too early and opens up the bishop. And here they mentioned that it's better to play bishop b7. Rook d1, bishop e7, and then d5. Takes, knight d5, takes, queen b6, and black is okay. Also, there is a line bishop e7, after which you take queen c7, here castle g3. You don't want to capture with the bishop, you want to reroute the knight and take on c5 with the knight to attack the bishop. That's nice. And also this is equal. So black doesn't do any of this, and he takes on d4. Now first rook d1, very typical for this line, and now bishop b7. And also a mistake, knight a5 was much better. And after this, bishop d6, e4, queen c7, knight f3 back, bishop e7, and now black lost a pawn after this, but it's a double pawn. Also black has a bishop pair, so there is a certain compensation for this. Okay, so he went for bishop b7, and now e d4. One more mistake, knight b4. It's very logical as a move. Knight d5 comes next, and you want to block the central IQP. But the better one was to go knight a5. And not to be afraid of d5. I mean, that's the best you can do. To take, and now d6. So now the queen is under attack. If you take on a1, then just take on f7, take knight g5. You cannot go to g8 because of checkmate on e6. King g6, takes, queen e6. Oi, 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 oi. Defend against queen f7 and now go g4. And it was a quick win for white. Okay. After this, knight b3, d6, queen c8 is the best. But even then, white is much better because the king is so bad and white is a pawn up as a compensation. But after this move, knight b4, it becomes even worse. Now d5 comes anyways. Even though you cover it enough times. If knight fd5, then there's a3 and black loses the piece because it's a pin on the e file, and if the knight moves, then you just take it. Take the piece, god damn it. But wait a sec. Oh yeah, what am I even thinking about? Like a3, knight c3, bc, knight d5, like, oh my goodness. Take the freaking queen. Okay, so after d5, black has to play this, but now bishop g5 is quite strong. And now black is triple pinned, actually. The queen is pinned, the king is pinned, and the knight on f6 is pinned. So now bishop e7 by black, and now takes, bishop takes, because if you take with the bishop, then you lose the knight. So gf, knight d5, bishop d5, and here it says more tenacious was ed4, but even that's a lost cause. After this, rook e1, king f8, knight f5, bishop c5, and then this. It still holds, but barely. Okay, so after this, bishop d5, takes, knight d4. And now we have the position, black is a pawn up. Good luck with that. And knight has good outposts on d4, f5, whatever. So now king f8 by black, knight f5, h5, and now final blow, rook takes d5. And now black took this, queen f6, and it's all over. Bye bye. It's very, very bad. And that's how you use the break in the center by d5. And that's why black has to do it immediately, not to allow this. Because usually if white gets his d5, then he is very, very advantageous. Let's see what else can we do. Okay, let's check this game actually. Or no, wait. Let's do this one from black side. So now I have this bishop b4, knight f3, and now c5. Some kind of hybrid of Queen's Gambit and Nimzo Indian. And now CD, ED, and now we have IQP on d5. Bishop c5, b3, a6, bishop b2, and now bishop a7. A typical idea. We want to go to b8 and form a battery. There is one game of Tal from this line, and it went something like this. Queen d6 first, rook c1, bishop a7, rook e1. Now slightly imprecise. The better one was knight b1, which is quite insane, but it makes sense because you want to go knight d4 next. In case of rook d8, to go knight d4 and have a good one. But he went for this. Bishop, wait, what? No, rook e8, a3, bishop g4, rook c2, rook a8, rook d2, and now he pushed d4. Takes, now he took on d4, and now there was bishop g4, which was a bit more imprecise. But never mind. Rook e1 takes knight g4, knight e4. Wait, what? Why not g3? Why not g3? Ah, maybe it's because of this line, bishop f2. And if this, if you take with the king, then queen d2 check. If you take with the queen, then you cannot avoid this exchange, actually. Queen d2, and now because of this poor coordination, you cannot save the bishop. After this, there's b5. After bishop c1, there is rook c2, and now you cannot defend both. If bishop a1, there's rook c2, and then rook c1 next with check. So I think that's the case. Let's check it if I'm correct. So this g3. Okay, it says that queen h6 is much better, but bishop f2 also works. Queen d2? What? Queen e2. Oh, queen e2 is there. But there is this check, this move, and then rook d2 next. Or you take on h2. But wait, king g1, what happens then? Queen b6 and then you lose the b3. Okay. That's good enough for me. But let's go back to the Tal game. Knight e4. This check. Oh. Ay. Bishop c3. Okay. Not for kids. So let's go back to the game. Bishop a7 here. queen d3, bishop e6. First you want to secure d5 before you go for some crazy attack. Rook a d8, rook a d1, bishop g4 now. And now queen b1. A very sus move. His last move allows d4. Yeah. It allows... h3 is better here. And if black takes and pushes d4, then there is bishop c6. And the issue with this is that after capturing there is queen d8. And if you take with the b pawn, take, there is still some small advantage because now these pawns are split and there is a chance. And if you play on h3, bishop h5, then queen f5 is very strong. Queen e6, queen f4, h6, queen h4, bishop g6, bishop f1. Slightly better for white, but you don't allow d4 like in the game, which is very important. But after queen b1, now black took and now pushed d4. e d4, knight d4, and now the mistake. Knight e4. It was better to just play knight e2 here. And after this rook d2, rook d2, knight h5, play queen f5. And white is okay, I think. He played this, but he missed following sequence. Queen e4, queen g5, queen g4, and now he missed this one. He was hoping that he would exchange queens or just exchange rooks, but he missed this nice shot. Bishop f2, and now if you take with the king, rook d2, and you lose the material, lots of it. So now white goes for king f1. King g2 was better. And now if he takes fg, bishop h4, now rook d7, now the king gets more active. And that's the difference between king f1 and king g2. After this, you take, and now the king is active, and in this bishop endgame you cannot realize the advantage. Because black needs some moves like king h7, king g6 to push f5 somehow, but let's see what happens. Takes. If you go king h7, there's king f5 forcing g6, and then you go back. King g8, bishop d4, f6, and it's just a draw because the king cannot cross the 7th rank. If you try something like king f7, then bishop e3, and if g5, then king f5, and it's black who is passive in this case. And also if you play g6, let's see what happens then. Bishop d4, f6. It's more or less the same. h3, bishop c7, and just shuffle. around. But wait, can you play bishop c7 actually here and just claim that you have some advantage? Bishop c7 and then push f5. Isn't that good enough for white, for black? Let's say a4, f5, takes. How is this not good for black? Strange. b4, king g6, b5, ab, bishop d8. No. Okay, let's go back here. Bishop f2, king f1 was played. And now black took, bishop h4, rook d7, and now h6. Black has won a pawn, but it's not so easy because of the rook on the 7th rank. Yeah, true. And now bishop c3. Yeah, king e2 here is better, just to keep it closer to the center. But okay, bishop c3. And now rook c8. Maybe he was trying to avoid rook d8, rook d2. But now there's rook c8. Trying to get to c2. Bishop e5, rook e8 now. And now bishop g3. Bishop g3. If bishop d6, then check here and you pin the bishop. That's over. If bishop c3, oh wait, no. If bishop c3, then rook e7, takes, king e2, and now he gets in time, unlike in the previous case. Bishop f6, bishop d2, and now h5, h3, bishop g5, bishop b4. He's gonna exchange pawns on g4, play f6, and king g6, king g5, force king f3, get the bishop to c1 and or d2, play g6, f5, and yeah, this is a nice one. First you exchange. Let's play f6. Let's just make some random moves. Bishop c1, bishop c5, king g5, king f3, and then just g6, f5. Or even better, just take with the king to make this pawn as far as possible from the action on the queen side. And when you do that, you just push the pawn, enter with the king, and grab this pawn. Grab these pawns. Eventually white will push one of his pawns, and that means that it's on the dark square, which is favorable to the bishop. Let's say you just move around, but what do you do? Bishop f4, let's say. Bishop c3, g4, king f2, and now you just enter closer and closer. And of course, if you do this, then you allow plenty of stuff with bishop e3 next, followed by g3, g2, and you have to keep an eye on this. So if king f2, if you just go here, now it's my time to take this. But wait, is it so easy actually? Because if I think it is actually, because if you push b4 and then this, you don't have time to... You would like to have something like this in this case, to push here immediately, or wait, maybe not, maybe something like this, just bishop h8, b4, let's say bishop f4, b4, and if I play b5, let's say, takes, bishop c3, g4, here, king f4, here, and if I do this, is it so easy to win actually? If I do this, king g3 takes, bishop g7, go here, takes. I guess it is because the king is so far. And after this, the king is going to shoulder the bishop. And how do you save it? If the king can somehow get over here to b5, it's a draw, I think. But this way, there's no way. Because let's just play some moves out. If you do this, I have king c2, and because of this short diagonal you have, you can't avoid this bishop c5. If king e4, bishop c5, and there's no b2 or c1. So yeah, this is supposed to be winning, yeah. And that's why white plays this move. Takes, b5, rook a7, rook e6. And now it's a pawn up endgame, but not that simple. King f2, rook c6, a4. a3 was interesting because it doesn't lose by force like a4. Because now after this, rook c3 takes, rook c4, and after this we have 3 against 1, which is good enough to win. Now we have this, a5, rook a4, a6, king f6, and now you just push. You slowly make progress. Just hide behind the pawns, and after f6, white resigned. Because now I'm gonna go king f5, king g4, push f5, and even take on g3 at some point. So that's that. That's about plan B, to push d4 or d5, depending on which color you have. Let's check out other plans. Let's check it out. What do we have here? Aha, advancing the IQP to fix the enemy pawn on adjacent file. That's interesting as well. Let's just... okay, let's see this game. c4, g6, here. Let's just skim through the openings. And now d5. Oh, I've seen this, but I was not sure. It's in the Greenfield style. And bishop f6 takes. I guess if you take with the knight, then you go back to g7 and just take on d4 in the next couple of moves. So cd5, here castle, and now knight f3. Knight d7, and now bishop c4, and white tries to hold on to this pawn quite amazingly. Bishop g4, castles, and now rook c8. But here knight c8 is interesting as well to block the d pawn. The extra pawn, which is doubled, and after this to take bishop d4, and after this to go for d6, but you can take it. And after knight e4, there is some initiative here, but it seems like black should hold this. It seems. So he went for rook c8 instead, and now rook e1. Takes, and now bishop takes d4, and now we have this advanced pawn against this this pawn, and actually the e pawn can become a much bigger weakness than the d5 pawn himself, because it's fixed, it cannot move. So now rook a d1, and now bishop c3. Bishop c3. Bishop g7 was better, and if d6, e d6, queen b7, it's about equal, but I would say that white is slightly pressing. But he took here, bc, queen d6, trying to block the pawn, h4 now. Very interesting, and now h5. Here it says h5 is a bit dubious. King g7 is also bad because of h5, and after this takes rook e7. Now black is a pawn up, but white has a passed d pawn, and also the extra pawn is this one on the king side, so it doesn't matter. But the best choice here was to play a5, and after a4, to stop a4 from black, to go h5, and if g4, then to take and take on c3. Ah, this is the forced line, because now when you lose the pawn you have to bail out somehow, and rook e6 is the way to bail out. After this, queen g6, you have a draw. Nice draw. A nice one. So black doesn't do that, does this. And here g4 was interesting. And after this to go h5. The engine says it's plus 0.9, which is quite nice. Also, you can always bail out with rook e6, so that's always a cute thing to know. Okay, so h4, h5, and now rook d4 was played in the game instead of g4. King g7, rook f4, and now rook c7. defending this guy on e7, but again a5 was better. And after a4 to go knight d7, g3, knight f6, and now rook c7, queen c3, b6, and you hold it. You hold it. But after this, let's see what he allowed. Rook e6. Oh yeah, that's bad. But wait, why not? Oh yeah, you. What am I talking about? The rook was on c8. Rook c7, rook e6, queen d8, and now rook e3 back. Queen d6, and now rook fe4, which in this case g4 was again better, and after this to take with the rook, to go h5 next. And if f5, then to go rook d4, rook f6, and now h5. Wait, what? If you take, what happens? Rook e6 or just queen takes h5? Yeah. So here rook fe4 was played, a5, a4, and now queen f6, which was very bad. Here knight d7 was the best, giving up this pawn, but forming some blockade. Oh, you give up. I thought maybe knight c5 here and you make a fortress, but you actually take on c3 and take the pawn back. Rook c7 here, knight f6. Oh, this is some counterplay. I like it. And then b5. Well, with the best 8 pawn, you might have some chances. But he played this, which allowed rook f4, queen d6, and again rook e6. Queen c5, but now you have rook g6. Is this legal? Wait, if you take with the king, then there's bishop c2 for sure. For sure. And if f5, then just bishop takes or rook takes even. Or just this. Wait, this, if you go to the f file, then you run into rook f5 and queen g6. That's not good. So you gotta play king h7 because you just cannot play this. Rook f5 takes here, and checkmate on e6. So after this, bishop c2, f5. Well, if you go back to g7, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I mean, you can even go rook g4 in this case. Or just go here, don't philosophize too much. Go here, and even though you're a rook down, you just have queen h5 and or queen h6 if you take like this. So it's quite bad for black. So that's why black chose to take like this, and after this, no, not this way. Queen c3, check, 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 and now d6. Oof, that hurts. Queen b3, and now with this check, it's game over because now you take the rook and it's all over. Or you just capture the pawn. What's the better one? What is the better one? Well, just capture the rook. Don't overdo it. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. Plan D, developing activity on the queen side. So usually this plan is employed when the side with the IQP controls the C file and has possible invasion points there, and also when there are targets in this sector of the board. Okay. And the IQP might turn out to be the IQP for both sides. For example, some exchange on d5 happens, and then you force the opponent to capture with the e-pawn, and then the control over c file becomes the main source of advantage. Okay, so let's check out this game. Let's check it out. We have Queen's Gambit and Slav, semi-Slav, and now this way, knight bd2, knight bd7. Okay. There are lots of variations about today's games, but I don't think it's relevant. Bishop e7, castles, castles, queen c2, and now dc4. Okay, knight c4, c5, and we reach this position. cd, ed. And now knight b6. The error. The mistake. Okay, what's better? To play h6 to prevent bishop g5. Or knight g5. Knight g5. Oh. Nice. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Because after this knight g5, you cannot play h6. Since you're just lost. After this, checkmate in 2. Okay, so black has to play g6, which is a bit sad. Now he goes back. King g7 and now bishop g5. But here it says that it's premature to play bishop g5 and it was better to play h4. h4 and then if bishop d7 to go queen d2. Bishop c6, bishop e2. King g8, takes, rook d1. With the better game for white in view of bishop pair and attacking chances on the king side. Okay, so after bishop g5 instead, knight d5. This was interesting. Knight fd5 just to exchange bishops, which always suits black. And if h4, which to me it seems very interesting, because now after f6 there is bishop g6. Bishop g6 and yeah, you cannot capture, of course. If you take on g5, I take on h7 and it's also a mess. Queen c7 was mentioned, and now queen d3, fg, rook ac1, queen d8, bishop h7, queen e8, bishop e4. What's up with that? This hg, queen h3, bishop d5 takes, queen g6, and now we have a draw, I guess. Bishop d6, knight e5. So it's only a draw, right? Okay, but black chose to play this to not exchange any pieces, which seems a bit odd. Rook ac1, bishop d7, queen d2. Wait, why not knight b4 here? Maybe he was afraid of some entry like queen c7 or I don't know. Ah, yo, queen d2 and then bishop h6. Okay, that's a bad one. Because now if you go knight g8, what happens? Takes, takes. Well, there's still some advantage for white, but I feel like this is also okay for black. He's a bit passive, a tiny bit passive, but he might hold this. Why not? But let's go here. Bishop d7. Ah, he plays the same. Queen d2, knight g8 to stop bishop h6, and now we take queen e7. And now bishop e4. So he wants to transform to bishop d5, e d5 to have a symmetrical pawn structure, but with the c file being controlled. So now bishop b5 is played. Rook fe1. But wait, here they mentioned that knight gf6 is correct. And after capturing... Wait, after capturing on d5, knight d5, rook c... Wait, what? Rook c5? Aha, yeah, I missed the line. I missed the comment. Knight g4, so this is incorrect. Knight g4, f6, queen h6, king h8, knight e3, bishop c6 is okay for black. And after bishop c2 to escape the knight, and then there's rook ac8, bishop b3, queen d6, knight g5, takes, takes, knight e7, and after this to go to f5. I've seen this idea of black to go to f5 to end with this pawn structure in the game Kamsky-Karpov, I think. So here bishop b5 was played instead. Rook e1 and now queen d6. And now if you play rook knight gf6, then takes, takes, rook c5 is quite strong. Because if the bishop moves away, you take it and go knight g6, which is winning. And if black goes here, then it's defendable. After rook c5. But wait, here if knight g5, let's see what happens there. h6, bishop g6, hg, oh, this is crazy. Bishop f7, knight d5 now. Rook c5, bishop c6, bishop e6. Wow. Takes, takes, queen f5, knight b4. What is this? White is better, but not too much. Okay, so after this, rook c5 takes, takes, a6. It seems quite solid. I don't see a problem for black. Knight g5, king g8, queen e3, bishop e8. Just defend against knight f7. Interesting. Okay, so queen d6 in the game. Queen d6, bishop d5, and now e d5. Ah, because if queen d5, rook c5 is winning on the spot. Okay, so e d5, and now we transfer into this one. Queen a5, a6. Here they mentioned that bishop c6 is more resilient. After this, I don't like this. If this is the best defense, then something's terribly wrong. So let's go back here. Ah, but this allows queen c7, takes. And now h6 to stop knight g5, I guess. Now he lost a pawn. Sedge. And now it becomes hell. Black tried something, but it's not gonna work out. Whoops, knight f4, checkmate. Okay, let's check some defensive methods against IQP. And the first one is simplification of the position. Let's check that out first. This one. So we have the Tarrasch French, and let's just skip to the opening. It doesn't matter too much. What matters is the final product and this position. Knight c5, bishop b5, and now bishop d7. And here it's better not to exchange bishops, just to go knight c4. And eventually black had a better game. After this, bishop g4, bishop e3, bishop c5. He was slightly better. But with bishop d7, now bishop f4 was played. Rook e8, now he took, and now queen b5. Going for even more exchanges. And now queen b5. But here they mentioned that a3 is interesting to somehow disbalance the position, to make the queen side a bit weaker, so that the d5 pawn is not the only weakness in the position. Maybe to make the c2 pawn a weak one. So after this, takes b3, knight c5, and now after knight e4 the c3 becomes weak, so there is a hope. After c3, rook a5, and again black seems a bit better, because now when the knight goes back to, let's say, d4, then you go rook c8 and put pressure on the c3 pawn. But he exchanges immediately, and now there's no option of a3 anymore, I suppose. Maybe there is. Maybe there is. Oh no, but you hung knight c7. Yeah, this is a threat, knight c7. So knight e6. And here, rook e8 was interesting. Bishop d6. Takes, rook c6. Go here. Now rook b6, playing against other pawns. Now b3, g6. Here knight e4, and now the weakness of c3 square also compensates for d5 weakness. Okay, so black missed one more chance to make it more dynamic. Knight e6, and now bishop e5, rook e8, rook ac1, rook a5. If black just waits, then white stabilizes and black is in so much trouble. Rook a5. So here they mentioned that this is a loss of tempo because the knight from b5 anyways wanted to go to d4. And here knight e4 is the better choice. And after this, to go for a3. And now the point is if you go b3 to just enter like this. Knight c3 and to put pressure on a2. So if white takes, bishop takes, rook b1, and it's not so clear anymore because white's pawns are also quite shaky on the queen side. Knight d8, knight f5, f6, bishop d4, and now you take on c2. So after this, knight d4, knight d7 now. Again, knight d4 is better because of the same a3 idea. So knight d7, knight f5, bishop f8, and now bishop d4. Oh, there's a nice perpetual after bishop g7. You don't capture with the bishop because of this, but there is this one and perpetual like this. Okay, cute, but white doesn't say so. White says bishop d4 is better. And now rook b5 by black. Again, black is better after g6. It says here g6, knight e3, takes, a3. And after b3, bishop h6. Rook fe1 to save the... I mean, to not double the pawns, to not make the f pawn a weak e pawn. And after this, g3, rook c3. Yeah, you just put pressure on the c2 pawn. But again, he missed a chance. Rook b5 was played, and now time for stabilization with b3. g6, knight e3, and now bishop g7. It says here that knight d4 was better, and after this to go rook a5 back. And on g3 to take and go bishop c5. To make some piece play at least. But wait, if you go knight d5, what happens? Ah, maybe there is this. And if rook a1, just take on d5, take on d4. Okay, so rook fd1, knight f6, king g2, and now rook a2. Now you play around the d5 pawn, and you try to target other pawns as well. Okay. Knight e3, bishop g7, rook cd1, a b cb. Now they exchange this, and now he took on d4, which is also slightly worse. Here, rook a5 was better to target a2, and on a4 to go knight c5. Knight c5, and now b3 is very soft. And there's no b4 because of rook a4. And then this knight on d4 hangs. So if knight d5, what happens? Rook e8, g3, knight a4. Wait, why not something like this? Because of this or what? What happens on this move? Rook e4 maybe. Just simple as that. And if this... Wait. Knight c7. Am I blind? Probably yes, but don't tell anyone. Knight c7, rook c8. Knight b5, and then I need something. Maybe to take it, but no, knight captures, recycles. Wait, knight d5. Or just king f8. Does king f8 do something? King f8, knight b6, and then go rook d8. Oh no. Well, yeah, it works. It works because on this I have knight e6. So I attack the knight and then I will capture on b3. But unless you have this. But I have rook a6. And on this to grab with the bishop? Or wait, maybe rook. Because if I allow this, I allow some pins, some stupid pins. Maybe it's okay, because if I allow this, you never double, really. You can go rook d2, but... Wait, here... How do I get this pawn in the end? If I go king e8, he has this check, which is annoying, and he'll get me eventually. So, wait, here knight d5. Let's think a little bit. Let's not make it all about IQP. So, wait, why didn't I play? Oh my goodness, why didn't I play rook d8 here? Am I that blind? Rook d8 and then just double attack. Oh my goodness, this is just disgusting. Okay. Happens a lot. So rook a5, a4, knight c5, and where was I? Knight d5, rook e8 was played. Aha, actually they mentioned this one. Okay. Okay. And then g3. Yeah, I'm just lost completely. My mind is blown. So let's check with the engine. What is that? Knight c7. Is it possible? Well, it's a possible line, but it doesn't bring too much joy. After this, knight cb5, rook a8. Are you kidding me? This is fine. Oh, but yeah, it makes sense because it's kind of equilibrium position. Your knight on b5 cannot move. The knight on d4 cannot move. The rook cannot protect b3 because the knight hangs, and it makes it so tied up. So it makes lots of sense now when I think about it. Okay. Okay, so after g3 you take on a4, but this is even easier. Even easier draw. Rook d5, knight f3. Takes, rook a8, and now you basically exchange b for a pawn. Let's say rook b1, rook a4 takes, and typical GM draw. Yeah. Okay, so after this, black took on d4, and now he's in lots of trouble. After this, knight f6, rook fd1. Well, still not in so much trouble, but after here, b4 was accurate. And after rook a8, rook a1, rook a4, a3, rook b6, rook a2, rook ba6. What's gonna happen there? Knight c2. h5, g3, king g7, rook d3, and black is passive, but I don't mind it. I don't think it's such a big deal. But he plays this, rook fd1, and now rook a8. This one and king f8. Wait, if you go here, like in the book, knight d5, takes, no, wait. Takes, rook a2. Takes, g4, rook a6, rook b5, b6. This is equal, right? Yeah. Okay, so after this, king f8. Now g4. Rook a5. And this was the moment that black could equalize after knight e4. Because if you take, then takes, rook a2 is excellent for black. But if you go rook c2, then rook ba5, and on a4 just liquidate as much as possible. King g2, take. But wait, if you go b4 here, what happens? Knight g5, oh, this knight e6, ouch. And then d4, and you win the b4 pawn, and even it's white who has to worry about making a draw. Okay, that's a nice one. But he plays this, and oh, sorry, no, not this. I don't know notation. Rook a5. Rook a5, which is a mistake. Now f3 to stop knight e4, nice. And now the expansion begins. And now g5 was played, which g5 is just very bad. Allows knight f5 next. Rook a7 was more tenacious, it says here. g5 and takes, knight h7, f4, this, and now a4. b5, b4 takes here, and now f6. Wow. Well, that's clever. gf, rook f7, and black has good chances to survive. But after this move, after g5, his chances become much slimmer. After h5, now you create a weakness on h6, and it becomes really ugly, really bad. Rook a6, king f2, rook ba5, a4, and now b5, the last chance to do something. But now rook a2, ba4, rook da4, takes, rook b6, check, knight f5, check, king e8, and now knight d4. Okay, so here maybe f5 was somewhat tricky, but you can give a check here, rook a7, and then take. Because on this you can just go king e2 and take on h6 next. But wait, is there rook b6? Ah, no. If this, then give a check and go here, take on h6, and it's over. And he played this, but after check, he resigned. Because of, you know what. Okay, let's see. Oh, this game is interesting. One more endgame, which favored the player with IQP, which is quite interesting. Let's just check it out. Okay, so we had again Queen's Gambit, but declined. Let's go through with this. I don't care too much about what happened before the position, so I'm just gonna skip through. And again we get this position, which can appear after Petrov or French defense. And now usually black tries to exchange pieces, which is what he did. Rook e8, Queen d2, and now Knight b6. Okay, so now Rook e1 to get the e file, takes, Bishop g4, Knight e5, and now he took. Rules are rules. You exchange pieces, but it's not that simple. Knight f6, and now h3, Bishop d7. Now he even exchanges one more piece. Takes, Queen f8. And now Queen f4. Also, Rook f4 is very strong. And after Bishop e8, Queen d3, a5, Bishop c2 here, and then this. So yeah, I want to go Bishop g6. But you don't want to allow Queen e7, so you don't play Queen g7. So you play this move, which is a bit of a concession. Now Rook f3, Bishop f7, and now Bishop b3. Now these pawns are quite weak on the king side. The d4 pawn doesn't even matter, doesn't do anything. a4. But wait, if you take on b3, what happens? Takes, Queen f7, Queen b6. Aha, now the mistake is Rook a6, but a4. If a4, then Rook a3. Now the a pawn becomes weak, but what happens if this? Well, then it's a GG. After this, Queen f8, Queen c7. Then that, and Rook e3, Rook e7. No, Rook e3, Rook e8, or Queen d8, followed by Rook e7. Okay, so that's bad. That's really bad for black. But white goes with Queen f4. And now black exchanges even rooks. King h2, but now this position is not so simple to defend for black, because the bishop plus queen combo is really dangerous now, and the weakness on d4 is not relevant because the queen can only attack it, and the battle is played on the light squares, not on the dark squares. If you imagine that we have dark square bishop, then you might argue that white is a bit worse, but in this case black is the one who is on his back foot. So what does black do here? He plays a5. Bishop e6 seems more interesting, and that's something I would play in the game for sure. Bishop e6, and here after, I mean, if you go queen d7, what happens then? Queen d7 seems okay. But let's say king h7 in the book. Everything from the book. Bishop e6 and then fe6, and you somehow try to hold on to this position. Somehow, by some miracle. I guess it's passive, but also, what's up with this position? It says that the endgame is winning for white, but I'm not sure so much. What happens? This. Can you just ignore this by just moving around? a4, king e7. You just slowly push it through. Oh, yeah. Wait, you go king d7, I go g4, you go here, I go h5, you go here, I go f4, here I go g5, and now you cannot push. You cannot play king d7 because of capture, king f6. Well, that's clever. And after this, a5. Okay, that's depressing for black. So maybe the best choice is to play here fe6 and to claim your passive, but you're very solid. Okay, so bishop e6 was something that needed consideration, for sure. And black played a5. Now there is this move, winning the pawn on a5 or b7. Now black tries to get some counterplay, but there is this nice check. Queen d7, king g8. Because let's say here, if you try first to take on d7, there is a perpetual. Queen f4, and it's a draw, or you give up the bishop like this, which also is a draw after queen d2. And what do you do? What do you actually do? Nothing. Just cry. Just cry. So this takes queen d7, king g8, king g3, and now this check. A decisive error. And the better try was queen g6, and if king h2, well, they show also queen g4, but after this, queen g6, king h2, queen c2, the queen is too active, and it collects some pawns. And this actually reminds me of Yasipenko versus Nakamura in Grand Prix. Yeah, now it's black is going to try to open up white's king and always give some checks. It's not gonna happen for white. So after this, king h2, queen e4. Because of this weakness, it's tough to make a progress for white. But in the game, black played queen d3, f3, and now queen d2. If he plays queen g6, then you go back, queen g5, check, check, and then just b3, and you slowly put pressure on black. You can maybe play h4 and or just put the king to safety first. And it says here that the white can realize the extra pawn in a similar manner as to the game. Okay, let's see how he realized. Queen d2, b3, b5, queen e6, king h8, check, 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 and now a4. But there was a win by force after queen c6. After this, king h1, and after this, oh, exchange queens, nice. But wait, here, if you go queen d2, aha, now the d pawn is just a beast. Okay, so white played a4, which also wins, but a bit slower. Queen c3, check here, takes, takes, and now we got this. He took on b5 and finally he took the d4 pawn, but now it's very lost. Black is 2 pawns down and now he has to give some checks, but he finally gets out of these checks. After this, queen b3, and now we get this pawn endgame, which is completely winning. f4, h5, f5, and black resigned. Black resigned because what to do? What to do, god damn it. Okay, so what can we do here? Let's go with the let's go with this game. No, wait a sec. So the next defending plan is to transform AQP to hanging pawns structure. And let's do this position. Let's do this one. In this position, white could have played queen a3 and to hold some balance. After knight a5, knight e5, knight f4, takes, rook e3, and this is somewhat balanced. White might have some attack on the king side maybe, and black could put some pressure on the c3 pawn. But actually white plays a move, not queen a3. He plays this move, rook e4. And the issue with this move is that after knight cb4, bishop goes to b1, and now rook takes c3, which is quite impressive. Now this whole center just blows up. White took on c3, rook c8, and here white makes a mistake. He plays queen e1. But queen d2 was much better, and after this to go back to e3, and now to go bishop e4. Because then I guess, yeah, if you take on e3, you take on b7, and if rook c7, I can take like this, and I'm a piece up. Yay. So after this, knight bd5, bishop e4, now black can take, queen g6, and after this, to go back, rook c2, it seems awful, but it might hold after this. It is a bit sus, but white might hold this. But instead of queen d2, he played queen e3. Queen e1, sorry. And knight c3. Now rook e3, knight bd5, bishop e4, takes, and now knight b4. Also, knight f4 was strong, but he went for this. Rook e6, what? F e6, here bishop f3, g f3, queen f3, queen d6 check, here rook c4. Also, queen e4 was interesting. And after this, to give a check, king e2, rook c2, king d3 here, and take even on f2. But he played this, rook e1, queen d4, no, oh, wait, no, rook d4. And after this, takes, rook a4. Now we have this endgame, 2 against 1, but with pawns on both sides. And also it doesn't help white that he has split pawns on the king side. So let's see how it goes. Rook e2, king f7, now f3, and now b5 starts pushing this pawn. g5, h3, h5, and now he slowly puts pressure on the king to get more passive. King f2, rook a3, even more making this king passive. King g2, now b4, king f2, a5, king g2, rook c3, and now white resigned because after a4 there's b3 followed by rook c2. And it's game over, pretty much. Pretty much game over. Okay, this was really nice. This this whole sequence, rook c3 takes, rook c8. So actually black gave up the exchange for a pawn, and he left white with the IQP. So yeah, it's quite a good trade. Plus, when you have the bishop on b7, it's not gonna hurt. Okay, let's check out this game. Let's check it out. And this time hanging pawns are used as a strength, not as a weakness. So we have this knight c6 here, and after this move order we get hanging pawns. Takes, d5, takes, queen b3, takes, and now bishop c4 using this small trick to force e6. But also there is a line of knight d5, this, and to force the exchange of bishop for knight. To go queen d5 next. But black plays e6 here, and now bc is possible. Bishop d7, bishop e2, knight a5. And now queen b1. Bishop g7, bishop a3, and now you have to go bishop f8. Or maybe to go f6 with king f7. That's also interesting. So here bishop f8 and now bishop b4. Very interesting. Black took. Queen b4. He doesn't want to transform into IQP like this. Castle, castle. He's going to f5, so it's not a problem at all. f6, and it's equal. But he does this. Queen b4, and now b6 by black. And now h4, a very typical move for this setup when you have g6 played as a hook. And also the point of this is to make f6 more undesirable to play once you play h5, because you want to put your knight to e5 actually. So black plays h5 and to stop this, but now knight e5 becomes much more potent. Castles, knight c6, queen d6, knight e7, queen f4, and now c4. So the side with the hanging pawns needs to push before black somehow blocks these pawns. Bishop c6, and now rook a d1, rook a c8, knight e5, bishop a8, and bishop d3. Now it looks very, very dangerous for black. King g7, this one, queen c7, and now d5. Now d5 and black took. And here the best move was to go bishop b1 to try to meet dc4 by rook d7, but black can also play knight c6, cd takes, d6 here. No, wait. Queen e5 takes, rook e5, rook fd8, rook e7. And it says here that it's unlikely to convert this. Okay. So after this, cd5, bishop d5 was a huge mistake. Actually, knight d5 was better, and after this, queen e7, queen g3, queen d6, bishop e2, it will be unclear. Okay. So bishop d5 was a mistake, and now bishop a6 comes as a punishment. So what's the point? Bishop b7 cannot be played because of takes, rook d7, I suppose. Right? If knight d5, then queen d4. and it's plus minus. If the rook goes to d8, then what happens? Knight g6. Ouch. And then you have these split pawns on f7 and h5, and it's really bad. You lose it on h5, it's just dead. Bishop c8 takes. Ouch. Rook a7 wins. Yep, that was bad. Bishop a2 instead. So now he gives up the material, but it doesn't matter. White doesn't care. Queen c3, rook e3, check. Knight f5, so he tries something, but now queen g5 by queen g6. Knight e3 takes. Yeah, it's just the king is so naked, it doesn't have a chance. And then knight g6. This was nice. A nice game. Okay, I think that's it for today. I think I did enough. It's about 3 hours of work, so thank you so much for watching, and